Three, two, one. We're recording and we're live streaming. I felt like I've been doing this all week. Welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
And Sean, today we got a random flight. We're going to be discussing persuasion and how the media really influences us.
Yes.
They got these set of tricky words they like to use.
Words, tactics. They got, and I know this is a surprise to everybody. But if nothing else for our listeners, this will just confirm your bias about the media and give you some like talking points about. So perfect for like Thanksgiving dinner coming up. You know, if you want to talk about this kind of stuff, if somebody at your table thinks the media is still good, then we've got some ammunition for you. So stay tuned for that, because we'll give you some info to really raise some questions about the media. I'm not sure anybody still trusts the media. Actually, I think I posted that on Facebook a while back.
It's
the media
graph. I think it's at an all-time low.
And
we're going to among everyone. Not even whether you're left, right. It doesn't matter your political persuasion. No one trusts what's being said anymore. So
and we're about to tell you why on this show. And there's some of these things, you know, like anything, you can use them to manipulate, or you can use them to your advantage in a good way, because the principles still apply.
Right.
And you can still use them, most of them. There's some you wouldn't want to use at all.
Right.
But a lot of these you could use for good and not for evil and manipulation and all that kind of stuff. So, that'll be good. And you're going to talk a little bit about your trade show week this week. You were at a big trade show, industry trade show for your business.
Doing a whole lot of podcasts, doing exactly what we're doing right now for quite a few days, and just like one after the other, interviews, talking to people.
So this is the last place Jonathan wants to be right now, if you're listening. So if you hear that in his voice,
this is the funner side. I mean, this is the side where you can. This is the more relaxed side of the podcast.
So you weren't drinking beer on all your podcasts all day long?
I was not drinking beer. I was drinking beer afterward. And I actually had some companies that came up to interview that said, at 3:00, we got a beer, we got a beer tent open. So I said, be sure to mention that quite a few times to get people over there. And mention that booth number, right? Mention that booth number where the beer is.
Yes. So that's pretty cool. So you were live streaming.
Yeah. So that was cool. Live streaming the whole time. It was going out to our platforms. We have, so our composites show has LinkedIn set up on, because I'm using StreamYard. This is exactly what we're using here to blast it out to our Twitter channel, our LinkedIn, YouTube, all of that stuff. So
you've had that podcast for a while, right?
Yep.
Did you have to pay for the booth, or did they invite you, or how?
No, it's totally paid for by the association. They sponsor me every year for it. So
there's a little marketing lesson for you right in the first 3.5 minutes.
Everybody else is paying. All these other companies are paying for the floor space,
booths,
but not me.
On both sides too, because the attendees booths, they're trying to get business, and then the sponsorship booths, there's usually a different section for that. So you're getting in there you're invited in and given a space, prime space too, I would imagine.
It was. It's not. It wouldn't be comparative to some of the larger booths, but it's at an ideal spot where there was a lot of traffic coming through, and they had this big backdrop that they did all the work. I mean, they paid for all of this. They had my logo printed on a backdrop, along with the name of the show. It's called CamX. So they had the CamX logo, which is actually the name of the.
So it's like one of those
trade show
post-game interview banners behind you.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, it looked great. So
that's awesome.
I commended that. I mean, they were like, I was like, wow, that looks really good, especially on the video, the live stream video. They had set it up where I was, they had a DSL line running because I told them, I said, it may be spotty if I'm having to work off of Wi-Fi, especially with so many people there. And so they set me up with a DSLR or DSL connection that I could hardwire straight into my laptop.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And it was just smooth. I mean, it was smooth video the whole time. So it was great. Got
That's
a lot of shares on those videos too, on those streaming videos, had a lot of shares by companies, and just, I mean, it was great. It was great for my page on LinkedIn, because I got a lot of hits to my LinkedIn page and a lot of thumbs up and a lot of page followers on top of that. So
yeah, be hitting the follow-ups for appointments hard.
Absolutely. For sure.
In the next month or two, when everybody else is on vacation, you could just
That's right.
keep going, stack those appointments up for January.
Oh yeah. And even a lot of the companies that I didn't get to that I wanted to interview, there was only so much time. You just there's 526 exhibitors at this event.
Wow.
So, there's so many companies out there, and a lot
That's
of
amazing for such a, small niche,
Oh, I know. But it encompasses so much. You think about 3D printing, which is a growing industry. They kind of fit within that composites and advanced materials. So I was able to interview some companies in that 3D printing arena that are doing some really cool stuff. So
it's awesome.
It was a blast. I had a fun time. But you wear yourself out. I was telling you before the show, you just go, and it's hard to get a lot of rest during those events, Sean, because you're out there even after the event, you're talking to people and you're networking afterward up until the wee hours. And then
there's no pillows at the bar.
Pillows at the bar. You're right there. And the pillows in the hotel room aren't that great either. So
exactly. Yeah. So well, what are you drinking to recover from this week?
So I've got one that I'm actually pretty excited. It's called an Oak Spire bourbon barrel ale. Okay. And the bourbon that's being used, I suppose, is the Four Roses. We've had the Four Roses bourbon.
So the barrels, I guess, are Four Roses barrels.
Four Roses barrels. Yeah. And this is actually a limited release by New Belgium. Says special release, Four Roses, bourbon barrel ale, 9% ABV. So
goodness, no recession in the Taylor household. buying them pricey 4-packs.
It's been this is a full 6-pack actually.
Oh wow, so, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Well, over here I have got Shell Shock,
Turtle.
Got a Ninja turtle on it. And then a Ninja Turtle on it. And it says it is an imperial stout with pecans, fudge, caramel, and vanilla.
Caramel.
10% alcohol. Yeah, there's like 2 words there: pecans, caramel, caramel. Like you could say this like 14 different ways. 10% alcohol from our friends at Martin House Brewing up in, I believe it's Fort Worth.
Oh yeah,
made in Texas by Texans.
Have you had one of those on one of their beers before?
Yeah, we've had a bunch of Martin House on there. They're always coming out with something. Next time you're in Fort Worth, you should go try to find them. Okay. But, when I poured this, like, it's really, really, I mean, it looks like an imperial stout. Like it is super.
Oh wow, that looks amazing.
It's super dark.
That looks amazing.
So
mine's got a reddish.
Oh, I definitely smell the fudge.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's cheers
it up. Smell any bourbon. Cheers.
We haven't rated the last 2 weeks.
I know that.
We had guests. Oh man.
Well, we had returning, so it's okay. These are both new, I think.
This is good.
Uh-oh.
You take another sip. Man. That reminds me of going to either Gatlinburg, Tennessee, or Helen, Georgia. What do you do every time you go to Gatlinburg or Helen? What shop do you have to stop in?
The candy shop.
You got to stop in the fudge shop, right?
Yeah.
This tastes like
a funnel. I get a funnel cake.
Funnel cake would work. Yeah. But yeah, you got to get the fudge though. I mean, that's just, that's just part of it.
Oh, big time.
So, oh man, I'll go ahead and rate mine.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
You might as well get your finger ready.
I got the finger ready. The finger is on.
This is a 5.0. I am shell shocked at how good this is.
Wow.
That's the name of the beer, shell shocked.
All right. Send me the, and you picked that up at the.
This was HEB, but I think Martin House is nationwide. I think they might be at.
Yeah. Okay.
Total Wine. Well,
I'm grabbing that. If it's a 5, I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's good. I mean, it tastes like fudge.
What's the, oh man, that looks amazing. Just the color makes me just want to reach over.
True, like imperial stout color.
Yeah. What's the, what did you say the ABV was?
10.
Oh, okay.
So
that's a good one, man. This is 10. Isn't this your favorite time of year as it relates to beers? Because this is like the beer. Yes. This is the beer season.
Yeah. It's still a fight, man. Like if I go to a brewery here in Austin, man, all the breweries, like the brew houses, that they all have man, it's just so many IPAs here. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's like, come on, people. It's fall. Yeah. Put up a stout. So
time to get some dark in here.
Yeah. But nope, they like their IPAs around here.
Some darks or some reds, some dark reds, some darks.
Like I can get like a brown porter or something. It's about a brown ale maybe. That's about as much as I can get. It's hard to find a stout at most places.
Oh man, I went to the place that I mean, they're always getting new stuff in. I started going to.
They know you're gonna come in there and buy them,
huh?
You're probably their best customer.
Every Friday I come in and looking for their new selection. The only thing I hate is they don't have a cooler. And my biggest issue is like you pull them off the shelf. And last week, my mini fridge in my office went out. So this is going to affect the rating, which is completely unfair for this, for New Belgium. I feel bad for them. It's probably great, even better cold. But because I'm drinking this at room temperature, it's getting I'm going to give it a 4.3. Yeah, okay. 4.3.
It's not too bad.
No, it's
especially for room temperature. Like 20 degrees cooler, it might get an extra 2 or 3 points. That's not bad.
It could. Yeah, I think that it might bump it up to 4.6.
Yeah,
but it would not be a 5.
Okay. Yeah, this is just it's like Halloween candy right here. Like a Tootsie Roll, or I don't know.
I got to try that.
Yeah, it's good. So
send me the link, or send me the picture after the show, just so I don't forget.
All right, well, let's jump into, what do you want to do first? You want to do media, or you want to talk about the trade show?
Let's talk about the media and what they do, because there might be some tie-in that I can relate to.
So we'll just kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
If you get something.
Yeah.
So I was on the internet and saw this article. I was just looking for different persuasion topics, doing my in-depth research for the podcast like we always do.
Takes many days. Many days of prep work.
Hours and hours of prep. So the first article I came across was this one, and I was like, that's good. Yeah. We'll go with that. But yeah, the title was Persuasion Tactics the Media Uses to Sway You. And I was like, well, that's right up our alley. We don't even have to hardly change the title.
No, thanks for, we just stole it from him.
Yeah.
Instead of sway, I did change it to influence. So I did tweak it a little.
Different, right? That's the rule. This site is so just to give credit where credit's due, this is from All Sides, is the name of the site, allsides.com. And
sounds kind of in betweenish. Sounds like they
so they actually, every article they put at the bottom, it's kind of interesting. they put at the bottom of the article who wrote it and what their bias is. Are they center, left, or right?
Okay.
And then they also say this, like this one says, this piece was edited and expanded upon by so and so, the director of marketing. She has a lean right bias. The author has a center bias.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and if you go to their homepage, let me just, I forgot to share it earlier. Share my screen. I'll do a window. So what's cool is if you go to their blog or their home pages, like their articles, when they write them, it kind of tells you. You can see this little chart down here: left, center, right.
Oh, look at that!
It tells you kind of which way it leans, and everything has, like, every article. So they're talking about job growth slowed. They've got an article from the center, an article from the right, an article from the left.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a kind of cool site. Because I actually enjoy sometimes reading the opposite view, especially as a copywriter, and like,
absolutely,
and I kind of know the arguments that people might be making and that kind of stuff. So, so it's pretty interesting. So, so this one is written by someone who is center. And then the editor was a little bit right. So we'll be going through a couple different things. But did you get much of a chance to glance at it?
I did.
So what was your favorite or your biggest, like, oh yeah?
Well, I told you I glanced at it. I didn't read it.
All right.
You said, did you have a chance to glance at it?
That's true. That's what I asked. We'll break it. They put it into 3 sections. They put persuasion. First, they kind of defined persuasion, and they said it really consists of 2 things: the source and the message.
Yeah.
Right. So who is the source, and then what is the message that they're trying to do? And that's those 2 things: source plus message equals persuasion.
Right.
Or lack of persuasion. Because not every source and message is persuasive. So, and then they get into characteristics journalists consider when choosing a source. So we'll start there in that section.
I did see the four keys, which is they look at expertise, reliability, familiarity, and attractiveness. Right. Now, I find it interesting on the attractiveness, because if you look at all of these media outlets, I mean, that's just pretty obvious. Isn't that blatantly obvious whenever you look at the
especially
news?
The hosts?
Yeah.
Right. All the hosts.
They never have anyone that's like even remotely that's, unattractive. There may be,
even if it's not your type, you can see that they're an attractive person, even if it's not your type, especially the women. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know if all the men are attractive. Some of them definitely are. Some of them are, I think, pretty average.
If you look at Fox News, and I would probably even say,
they definitely have a type. Yes.
Yes, they do. They're blonde. I think they're all blonde. I really do think they're all blonde on Fox News. I don't think there's one brunette.
Yeah, and I think CNN has all the brunettes.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Like that's an interesting dynamic,
That is.
But yeah, so expertise. This is more about, I think, though, this section is really more about the people they're interviewing, the guests that they bring on.
Right.
But definitely attractiveness from a platform standpoint. I mean, the fact is, like, and it says this in the article, it says, attractiveness works. Like, I'm sorry if you don't like it, but models and celebrities are used for a reason, because it works.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is interesting, because, more and more they're trying to, get into just persuasion in general, not just the media. Companies and things like that are trying to be more, inclusive and things like this. And they'll have people that aren't as attractive in their ads.
Right. Yeah.
And I know that when I look at that, I'm like, I mean, call me a judgmental old white man, but like, I'm like, really? That's, it's not as inspiring, I guess. You don't aspire to look like, depending on the product, you don't aspire to be that person if you don't resonate or like the way they look, right?
Correct.
And and whether you want to or not, you're tying that product to the visual, gut reaction of that person. And I do think there is some just primal gut reaction to attractiveness that we all have.
Oh, absolutely. It's a likability factor. And, we talk about persuasion influence, you people that you would want to associate with.
Or you want to be like.
Yeah, exactly. You notice all the anchors, like they even have, I noticed they have like products now. If you go to your local pharmacy, or I mean, not pharmacy, but like local store, like a Target or Walgreens or something, you're picking up like a shampoo or something like that. You're walking down the shampoo aisle. They have brands that cater to, this is hilarious. It's like a brand called Anchor Hair. Sean, you wouldn't know anything about this, but
no,
it's like Anchor Hair. But
I
they're
haven't been down that aisle
if you want to have that
time.
if you want to have that Anchor Hair, the Anchor Hair, like the Jesse Waters hair, I guess.
Ron Burgundy hair.
The Ron Burgundy hair. If you want to have that, you need to get this shampoo. But I find it interesting. They literally call it Anchor Hair shampoo, awesome. Or something. That's their title. Yeah.
I have not seen that. I've seen like, lion's mane or horse's mane or things like that. As different brands, you think of those as regal creatures, right? With the flowing manes and all this stuff.
Right.
So attractiveness is, even though we're trying to be more inclusive and things like that, and trying to not quote body shame people,
right?
Attractiveness, like people still judge a book by its cover.
Absolutely,
they just do, and I don't think that's ever going away.
Absolutely. It's just that's the human nature side of things, and if you try to deny it, then you're just living under that's just not reality. I mean, no matter what you try to, you see the some of the companies out there like Dove who are trying to, and so all of these other companies who are trying to, like you mentioned, go against the grain in terms of, using a certain type of body shape, which, that's just, I think that's backfired a little bit on them.
It has actually. When you mentioned that, so Victoria's Secrets.
Yeah, that's right.
They just put it. There was an article, Victoria's Secret. Let's see if I can find it real quick. But basically,
no one's opening their catalogs anymore. Or?
They're bringing back. They're bringing back the angels.
Yeah.
Like some of the iconic,
of course, Victoria's they are
Secret angels, because get this. Sales have dipped since they started going with more inclusive models.
That's a shocker. I'm very shocked to learn that people are that
shallow.
That shallow.
Yes,
in that movie, Shallow Hal.
Yeah, but it's funny because my daughter, she's 22. She's even like, I don't want to see the everybody in lingerie.
Right.
Like there's some people I just don't want to see in lingerie. Like
that's right.
Like it's supposed to be a little idealistic.
Nothing against them, but they just don't need to be showing off lingerie. They do not need to be doing that.
And I know there's probably people that disagree with us, just two old white men here. If there's gonna get we've talked about being canceled. This may be the show.
This may be the show. Well, you're citing a drop in sales for Victoria's Secrets, and I think it kind of backfired with Dove too, and so many others that have tried this this sensitive approach. But people don't. I mean, there's a certain thing that people expect when they see it on the screen. They don't want to see that on a Victoria magazine. Well, I guess they don't have a magazine anymore. Usually, I mean, not the magazine, but the catalog. But they don't want to see that anymore.
So here's one of the articles I found. Victoria's Secret pivot to inclusive, body positive advertisements and initiatives failed to win over more customers, and sales are down 5%. since last year, and even lower than 2020. So their revenue has gone from 7.5 billion in 2020 to 6.2 billion in 2023. And $1 billion is still a little bit of money, despite inflation.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. This is an interesting comment. Talk about putting a comment in press. I just got to put it on this. Nobody's gonna believe me if I don't put this on the screen. The drop in Victoria's Secret sales also followed the company's move to make its board of directors mostly female. Ouch.
Ooh. Ouch. Yeah.
That's a little harsh. Oof. That is coming from Fox Business. So there you go.
Wow.
So a lot of their, this is the body inclusive look.
Yeah.
Now they're bringing back, I read a different article. They're bringing back these girls here, which, most people would rather look at and buy, I
don't know. Some of those are too skinny anyway. So
yeah, but that's what sells, the original angels is what they're bringing. A lot
absolutely.
So 5% drop in sales from being, basically body inclusive for one of the biggest lingerie brands. So
that's
big. Is it the brand fault, or is it that's where the consumer's at? I mean, it seems like that's where the consumer's at. We keep seeing this over and over. If you follow some of these, quote, woke agendas, and everybody seems to forget that this woke crowd, or what the woke crowd is catering to, is about 5 to 7% of the population.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So whichever category of wokeness you want to go with, if you pivot and you're a major national brand or even a small brand, you're changing your entire marketing approach for 7% of the market. How do you think that's going to fall out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're probably polarizing 93% of your market.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or at least 50 or 60%, right?
Yeah.
So, and we've seen this time and time again. We're still waiting to see how.
And most people don't. Yeah, I mean, most people don't even fit the category or the, like you said, the attractive factor. I mean, the attractive look of what these companies put out there. But I think the key is, when you're trying to diminish your brand by putting a less attractive, I think that works against you, because people are always wanting, I think people, regardless of where their situation is, they aspire to be right. That's something they could aspire to be, and they want to see. That's why we, it's kind of why we go to we don't go to movies to see the A-list character be just some, regular Joe Schmo. I mean, this guy's kind of like,
unless it's a comedy.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
But imagine if all the Marvel movies were like,
Joe exactly.
Dirt, right? I mean, Joe Dirt is not going to qualify for a Marvel movie. Right?
I caught myself watching, they had the, I think they had the Iron Man, it was last night. It was the night before when I was out of town. They had a series. They were running back-to-back Iron Mans, like 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
And I was just like, you know what? Like that Robert Downey Jr., man, that guy's he's a good-looking guy, and I'm he
was the pickup artist too back in the day.
I know. He's got the charisma, he's got the look, the charm, but can you imagine them putting that Tony Stark character into an average Joe? It's just not going to work. So
yeah, I mean, what's the guy that plays Joe Dirt?
Yeah,
like, put him in there, like
Dirt.
Yes, not the same character.
Wasn't Dana Carr? Dana Carr.
I can't remember his name, but
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Yep.
Now we got to look it up. David Spade.
David
Spade's not too ugly. What's the guy? All right, what was the movie? This guy has been in all kinds of movies. I don't know. He's a B actor.
Yeah.
Asteroid. Is that the name of the Bruce Willis movie, Asteroid, or was it?
That was. I know which one you're talking about. That was like the. was not an
Armageddon.
asteroid. I know it was an
Armageddon.
asteroid, but there was an asteroid that was approaching
Armageddon.
Earth.
Yes.
Armageddon. Yeah. That's it.
So let me find the cast. So the cast. Where's the
Bruce
cast?
Willis. I know that Ben Affleck was in there.
Yeah. He's, who's the ugly guy in there? Sorry, buddy, whoever you are.
Oh, the guy from
Steve Buscemi.
Oh yeah, Boardwalk Empire. That guy. Yeah, Steve.
Like he's pretty much, I mean, no offense to the dude. He's made a great living with what he has.
Oh yeah, he killed it in Boardwalk Empire. And then he was on The Sopranos.
But there's a reason he's not a leading guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, because he's got that look. He looks like an average guy, and
that's right. Yeah,
he's super attractive.
He's not a A-lister.
Quirky. Yeah, he's great. B character, but he's never going to be a leading guy for that reason.
He's always been a supporting character, except for Boardwalk Empire. That's the only time he ever played the main character.
Yeah. So let's go back to that was a nice little tangent there on attractiveness. But I think the other thing on attractiveness real quick is that they will also do the reverse, right?
Right.
So if they're trying to make somebody look bad or make a side or an argument look bad, they will go out and find the geeky professor or the geeky geologist or whoever they need to interview that person because they're less attractive.
Yeah.
And therefore less credible in the eyes of the general public.
Sure.
So there you can actually use attractiveness the opposite way.
Yeah.
It's like if I want to show how, it's like when they always, interview the people on the news after a tornado, they always pick the person living in the single wide trailer to make it look worse than it actually was.
That's right.
We had a hailstorm come through Austin and I think a tornado too. And it was so funny. Like you can tell it was not really a big tornado or that it hit in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because the only picture they could find was a barn that was obviously 150 years old and already falling down. And they had like a picture of a little bit of insulation that hit a 500-year-old barbed wire fence.
Yeah.
And it was blowing in the breeze a little bit. I was like, that's the best you could do. This was obviously not a big deal. And of course, they had a guy on the scene.
Who's the weather guy? Jim Cantor Jim Cantori, that guy where the year it was like the years back when they had that hurricane come through and he's trying to like dramatize it. Like he's trying to, he's kind of leaning forward where he's trying to, keep from being blown away.
Calmly in the background.
Somebody walks by. Somebody walks by behind him.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, oh my God, does everything have to be acted out? It's just it's so crazy.
Yeah.
So expertise, they're looking for people with knowledge, experience, education, reliability, familiarity. Like, if you can get, like if I'm making a point, I'd rather have Jordan Peterson than some other, professor, right? Because he's now very familiar and recognizable, depending on the argument I'm trying to make, or a former president or whoever, right? Those people are going to be much more. They're going to hit that source. They're going to be a better source because they're going to just carry more authority in general. So the other big thing that that the media uses for persuasive messaging, and this is where we get into kind of the manipulation part, right? Like the other part is just, it's just kind of basic, good persuasion. You're kind of just appealing to people's just natural instincts, expertise, reliability, familiarity, attractiveness.
Right.
Where it gets a little darker and where you start to cross, I think, some lines is when you get into stuff like, where you start suggesting things, right?
Yeah.
So it's very suggestive.
Right.
Or you're appealing to fear, or you're using loaded words, or what this calls camouflaging, where you put a lot of filler around it to kind of talk about the thing, but also kind of confuse and distract at the same time.
Sure.
And then the big one is exhortation and propaganda, which we'll go into a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about, we've talked before about fear and how much better fear, sells. I think everybody's pretty aware of that. I wanted to talk about loaded words a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I have noticed before, like this is a good exercise. If you want to go on the nightly news, pick your mainstream media station, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox. Watch the first 60 seconds of the nightly news and listen to the words they use when they kind of do their intro for the show and they talk about all the stuff that's about to come up.
Yeah.
Right. And the words they use are so like sensational and big that they just automatically put you in this kind of heightened state of emotion and kind of really get you hooked.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
For instance, I've got a list here from my copywriting stuff, and I use these words too, but I try not to overuse them.
Right.
But I do use them. But what you'll hear is the news will use mostly the negative. They won't ever use them as a positive. So let's say the stock market drops today, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be pretty factual, right?
Sure.
Let's say the stock market dropped today.
Yeah.
All right. Nothing really comes up if I say the stock market dropped 23 points today, right? Or let's say it was 4%.
Yeah.
Stock market drops 4% today. Like that doesn't trigger in me like an emotional reaction. It's fact.
No,
okay.
It's very factual.
Yeah. But if I say the stock market plummeted 24 or 4% today, all of a sudden
that's scary. Plummet.
Like yes. Crashed.
Yeah.
Cratered.
Yeah.
Nosedived.
Right.
Those are very different words emotionally. And if you listen to the first 60 seconds of any of these broadcasts, you'll hear things like that.
Yeah.
Right. Another word that's kind of a neutral word is like show. Right.
Right.
Yeah. We're going to show you what we learned about the the Trump trial today. Right. No, they'll use words like we're going to expose.
Yeah. Unveil, something like that.
Expose, reveal, unveil, pull back the curtain on, get behind the scenes of, that kind of stuff where it feels more emotional.
Yep.
Some other words like, so disagree, right? That's just a pretty basic word. The emotional substitutes are howl, scorn, scowl.
Oh, yeah. You see that in the media all the time. Like if you read articles, like if you read any kind of, journalistic sports or sports journalism or anything like that nowadays, like they try to hook you by saying, if some particular athlete or coach says something in the media, they always want to present the reply back from if they're, targeting, if they're commenting on a certain player or a certain team, the media is always going to try to get the reply back, and it's not going to be a reply because a reply is just simply a reply back to whatever's being said. But no, they have to rip or they have to, a scathing reply, or somebody slams that certain coach or a certain athlete for their take, or this media person for their take. I mean, it's just crazy. And then when you see the headline and then you go in and read it, you're like, those things don't match up. that was not a rip.
Yeah. It's basically, clickbait. I mean, clickbait, right. 10% is kicking in.
Yep.
It's basically clickbait, and they use these words.
Absolutely.
So as a consumer, when you see these words, yes, it makes the writing better. It makes your videos better. It will get you more clicks. But where you have to be careful is that it sets, like you just said, like it sets up this expectation that it's going to be really big. Right. So the letdown is also bigger.
Yeah, because people see it as clickbait when they read something that's doesn't match the headline.
Yeah, it's a huge letdown.
Yeah.
And now people feel tricked. And that's the worst thing you can do in advertising is make someone feel tricked or fooled. Because now they don't trust you.
That's right. That's right.
And that's exactly why the media's, ratings have gone just plummeted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I see.
Use one of their
I
words.
find it interesting whenever you see hyperbole in articles that are shared on social media. I always like to read the comments, because the comments will usually tell you, like, you'll have comments like clickbait, or this, like, I didn't read anything related to this headline.
Yeah.
People read right through it,
Yep.
and so it's no wonder that the trust is at an all-time low for every type of media, whether it not just politics, but also sports in general, because everybody is fighting. You think about it, all of these outlets are fighting for eyeballs, and so they're doing everything they can to win your attention.
Yep.
And they'll go to whatever extreme it takes in order to pull you in and click on that link. I think it's gonna, ultimately, there you go, right there. Trust is dropping like an anchor.
Yes. So trust in media reaches new low in the U.S. In 2023. So a great deal, so the people that have no trust at all is up to 39%.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, none whatsoever. So, and that's from in 97, it was probably, it's probably 10, 16, 17%, somewhere in there. So it's more than doubled in the past 20 years or so.
Yeah.
Which I'm actually surprised it's still that low.
Yeah.
But I think so many people now aren't even reading the news that, most people are getting their news from TikTok or the late shows. Late show, I think, is the number one source of news for most people now, like late shows.
Yeah. Or even, non-traditional podcasts. People tune into podcasts nowadays. I know. I love listening, and I'll plug Scott Adams' podcast, because he's one of those that talks about the news, but he cuts right through all the BS. Like, he's very good at identifying, just like what we're talking about.
Yep.
The hyperbole, and being able to say, this is bullshit. This is not, this is not even a thing. This is not real.
Right.
So I love listening to him, because you can get a good dose of news, but also how to read that news from a perspective of, well, this is what they're trying to do to you. This is how they're trying to influence you to one opinion or the other. So
let's talk real quick about camouflaging, because this was kind of I had not really heard a lot about this. So the way they define camouflaging in this article is a complaint that a lot of people have with the media is that it diverts from the topic, beats around the bush, and overcomplicates the simplest of issues.
Right.
But only by doing that can the media control your awareness of the situation and your reaction to it. This is called camouflaging.
Yeah.
The real important information is hidden behind jargon, distracting details, and meaningless phrases.
Yeah.
In order to spot camouflaging, be sure to read a variety of sources in order to see if there's information you may have missed.
Yep.
So if you hear a lot of stuff that just, it's like, a lot of jargon, like seems like a lot of extra details, meaningless phrases, that's a tip that they're reporting, air quotes.
Yeah.
But not telling the whole truth.
Right.
So that's called camouflaging. And then there's exhortation. Considered to be the oldest persuasion tactic, exhortation involves a call to action through an appeal to values. So they know their target market, and they're basically manipulating your values. So it's done by elaborating on the virtue and moral high ground of the person trying to persuade, in contrast to their morally bereft opponents, right? So they're gonna start going after your morals and showing how the other side's morals are not as good,
right?
Which is, again, it's an emotional plea and tactic, as opposed to giving you the facts and the figures, which was, theoretically what the media was supposed to do at some point. I don't know if that's ever been true. I think we just used to think that was true.
Right.
I think by definition, journalism is supposed to do that, but I don't know that. I don't know that media has ever actually been that, and I think we're seeing that now.
Yeah.
more than ever.
For sure.
So, and then propaganda, exists in the media. It's subtler, is what this article says, and the difference here is it's much slower, and they try to keep it hidden more.
Yeah.
So you really would have, it's very kind of slow, and I've heard, I remember Rush Limbaugh saying this years ago, when he would criticize the right, the Republican side.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, the Democrats are much more patient with their long-term agenda than the Republicans were, and that's why they're winning, is because they're willing to take it. They have a 10, 20, 30-year plan to get where they want to go. So they're willing to wait it out and just gradually turn up the temperature or the volume on what they believe. Whereas the right tends to just kind of go in guns blazing and
reaction. They're always reacting, it seems like, for the most part.
But effective propaganda is over a longer period of time and a little bit slower, a little bit less obvious. So
that's good.
Any of this tie into your experiences at the trade show, or do you just want to switch gears to the
I can't say there's a lot of propaganda going on at a composites trade show.
They're not using any of this stuff, right? Except the models at the booth.
We're just talking, but they are using cliches and things like that when they're obviously, you see that as, somebody that's interviewing a lot of these companies. They're going to position themselves in the best light possible. So
and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Of course not. So you
want to put your best foot forward and all that kind of stuff.
That's right.
It's when you start doing it and you start stretching the truth, or you start
absolutely
picking the right person for the look and that kind of stuff. When you put supermodels at your booth to sell your cars, you're probably going a little beyond.
That's right. And you don't see, when you're dealing with on a minuscule level, like at an industry trade show, you don't see a lot of this being used, but there are some things like attractiveness. You do notice some attractiveness at booths and things like that. They try to present. I saw some interesting ways of persuasion at different trade show booths. Some of them were using like holograms, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Those are capturing the eyeballs, so to speak, in something new. We had our guest, I think it was Jonathan Pritchard, joined us about a month or so ago, talking about, selling at trade shows, and his stuff would be very applicable to companies, at an event like this. But some of them were doing actually a really good job. Some of them were doing a horrible job, where people were just, sitting there like a bump on a log and, looking at their phones. But I had some experience with some really good persuasion, at some of these booths. And then in terms of, interviewing companies, I think they're good about, most of them in industries like this are not full of hyperbole, but they do cite, I think what's to their benefit, they do cite a lot of case studies, which, you can utilize. That's going back to social proof.
What was the most persuasive thing you saw at the show?
I'll tell you the most persuasive experience that I had was not with a company that I interviewed. I was walking down, and this happened on the first day of the show. It was in the afternoon, walking down through some of the booths, and a guy, most people are standing directly at their booth. There was one particular company that the guy just like, hey, come on over here. He asked me a question, and I cannot recall the question that he asked, but it got me to answer, to respond. And then it got the conversation started. So he was very good. And I actually complimented him on his approach. While most people were, just kind of waiting for you to come up and pull some literature from their booth or ask a question or so. And I mean, it's horrible. I mean, you could write an entire book, Sean, on helping companies sell from a trade show, because they're 90% of them are awful. Yeah. But there's one particular person, one particular company that I walked by where the guy was just asked a question that forced me to answer him. That engaged the conversation. And then he pulled me into a demonstration that he did, and very convincing, very, very persuasive. And it had nothing, like this booth, these guys had nothing to do with composite and advanced materials. They were selling it was one of these, you ever seen these 10, what do they call them? The 10 machine or 10 where they hook you up. It's like a wire thing, and they do the deep tissue massage on your muscles. But this one was a wireless where you hook the thing in. It was a wireless, you put the wireless pads in, and then you had a wireless control where they did the, they hit the settings on that, and they give different, different types of massage therapy, which I was like, what are you guys doing here? This is a composite show. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, hey man, every industry needs this, right? So it was true. They probably made a ton of sales to people because they're selling. I mean, they're smart. They're at a trade show filled with people that are out there traveling and, working, always on the road and always on the air, always in the air. And they probably need massage therapy and all of this stuff. So to me, that was the most persuasive presentation. I said, man, and he sold me on it. I actually bought some stuff from him, and I told him, I said, you're probably one of the best salespeople that I have run into at this show, and you're not even selling anything related to this industry.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because I mean, I think a lot of companies could learn from that. You don't have to go exclusively to your industry.
Right.
I mean, you're dealing with people and humans.
Right.
Like, where do people and humans gather? Right.
Yeah.
So
that's
like
right.
you said, these are all travelers.
Yeah. People that have aches and pains.
Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. We were sitting right in the middle of nowhere. And I said, I compliment him. He didn't like to be called a sales. I said, you're a great salesperson. And he didn't like that term. I said, well, that's actually a really good compliment, because there's very few people that are exceptional at selling, and you've done a fantastic job here from your trade show.
So he hooked you with a question.
Yeah.
Got you in there, and then he did a demonstration, I guess, right?
Then he did a demonstration. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that sold it right there. He hooked up he took these pads, put them on my back. And then he gave me the, it looked like a little iPhone device where you could, select the settings, different settings for deep tissue massage, and you can go up, you can take it up, different amounts of electrical stimuli, that you can apply to those areas.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. I was like, man, this feels great. But the fact that he lured me in with a question, man, that's
can't believe you don't remember the question.
I cannot. Yeah, I don't remember the question, but
it just went right through the conscious and into your subconscious, apparently.
Yeah, but the point is, it got me to engage. Whereas most people are just sitting there. I mean, 95% of these people, I told him, I said 95% of the people that are at these booths could learn a lesson from you. And this guy was probably not even 30 years old. He was probably I think he was still in his 20s. So he was just good at what he did. He was he was a hustler. So I said, you're great. People could learn.
Imagine, somebody that has a really cool travel suitcase, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
There's some cool ones out there that, they're made for the airlines. They're made for, carry on.
Yeah.
They have all the compartments that you need.
Right.
Why are those people not at every single trade show they can get into?
Absolutely. You don't have to be in a specific industry, but you could, you're serving that industry. I don't know how many sales he made that day, but based on my experience, I know he had to be making a lot of sales, you know? And so
that's cool.
You show up and that's just a great example of showing up at, right time, right situation. right opportunity, and you got the right person in place. And
Man, could you imagine if he? I mean, he could even step that up. Imagine if he had gone to the bar afterwards, right? Because
oh
there's
yeah,
always a bar at the
yeah,
main hotel,
hmm
and be like, "Hey, you want a free massage?" You
yeah,
know, and people are like, "Whoa!" Like, "Oh, hands free," you
right,
know, and slaps little things on you, and there
right.
you are at the bar. And man, that would gather a
Oh,
crowd so
absolutely,
quick.
right.
Old school, like street corner
hmm
selling type stuff.
Absolutely.
That'd be cool. All right.
Um,
Anything else you took away from the trade show, positive or negative, or
no, but I will say from a media standpoint, me being at the trade show as a media person always
yes,
garners authority.
yeah,
So the authority factor is huge in influence and persuasion because, and our friend David Dutton was there. He was kind of assisting me. I invited him to travel along, and he was helping me set up things on day one. And he had never been at a show, on this scale, so
yeah,
he was blown away by it.
yeah,
And and so he said, "Man, you got the authority." I said, "Yeah, that's true." Because I've been doing this podcast for about 6 or 7 years,
yeah,
and so there are companies coming by, just grateful for the opportunity to interview on my show, and kind of build some awareness, get some props to their, to whatever they're, whatever they're offering in their booth location. Because I was live streaming, so I was like posting, how we do the ticker, Sean, on this. I was posting their booth on the
oh, I
on
forgot to do
the
that.
on the live ticker that was streaming across. I'll be like, "Hey, what's your booth? I'm going to add it to the ticker." Boom. So every time we go live on an interview, hey, find them at this booth. So it was cool. It was a great experience. But yeah, it's authority. What you're doing is authority. So you create a personality around an industry that you're the go-to, you're the resource, you're the media guy, whether it's podcasting, video, whatever. You create that authority where people want to be around you, because most people in any industry aren't doing this, right? There's only a few publications or things like that, but most people don't think about creating their own footprint within a market, and building an influence around that. And you can do it. Anybody can do it these days with technology. It's
Yeah.
it's a blast, and you've seen it. People, you look at like some of the media types out today that have gone from working out of a basement, like the guy Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports, who created like Barstool Sports in his basement, and now basically sold it for billions of dollars, and then bought it back for a fraction of what for what they bought it from him for.
Yeah.
And guys he's just killed it.
I mean,
So
as we start to wrap up, we'll end up at football anyway. So, Josh Pate,
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he can get access to any game he wants now because he's got a following on YouTube and,
absolutely. Yeah.
talk sports.
And 5 years ago, no one knew who that guy was.
Yeah.
He's just created out of nothing. Right.
Yeah. And you can do that in any industry.
Yeah.
And, I'm not, there's, even though depending on the industry you're in, it feels saturated for sure.
Right.
If you're in it, because that's probably who you follow on Instagram. It's who you follow on Facebook and everywhere else.
Yeah.
The fact is, there's not many creators in any given niche, no matter how big the niche is. There's just not that many creators. Most people are consumers.
Yep.
So
absolutely. 100%.
I mean, here we are, the number 2 podcast, according to some website we've never heard of, that,
yeah.
And we're not even like actively doing a lot of the, the marketing and things like that.
That's right.
Because this is, just a hobby for us.
Yeah. And the fact is, most people who make an attempt, I think whether the stats, Sean, are that most don't finish out past, a few
3 episodes.
Yeah. 3 episodes, maybe, less than 10 or something like that, where, they have these grand visions, but they don't follow through. So it dries up. Consistency is key. I mean, you just keep, just pushing along in anything, and you're going to get recognition. So
for those who might doubt our number 2 rating, I just want to go ahead and throw this on the screen.
this is what persistence does, right?
Yeah. So FeedSpot
329.
has us ranked as number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think we did share this when David was on, but
Yep.
If we were a little more active on social, we'd be number 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Because you look at the top Persuasion pitch, they've got 1.2 thousand or 1,200 on Facebook. I don't know what that means.
And really,
like
they're only just
Facebook group.
They're just anti-MLM. That's their whole thing. Like they just don't like multi-level marketing.
Yeah,
and they try to expose the dangers of multi-level marketing as well as other cults. So
yeah, right.
We should have them on. We should we should go on their show and they should go on ours.
Absolutely. We should ask them all kinds of questions about the dangers of MLM.
Yeah, absolutely. So you think Amway's not legit?
I was up in Grand Rapids like 3 weeks ago, man. That Amway built that town.
No kidding.
It's crazy.
There's some people making money. I mean, like the guys in Amway say, right? No, the real pyramid scheme is your corporation you work for.
That's right.
See, literally the org chart on most corporations is a pyramid,
Yeah.
It's
yep.
It's funny. I was talking to a young kind of startup MLM.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, the biggest problem is that your guys' pitches, when you draw it on the whiteboard at the hotel, it looks like a pyramid. I was like, all you have to do is start at the bottom, and draw it like a tree instead of a pyramid.
Right. Yeah.
And people couldn't say it's a pyramid scheme. They'd be like, it's a growing tree that has branches. It's a family tree. I'm like, that's all you have to do.
Oh, man.
So I may start my own MLM next week.
Makes me think of what was it, the episode of The Office where Michael Scott, he's in this MLM and he goes, no, it's not a pyramid. And he starts drawing out the structure on a whiteboard, and Jim walks up to the top and he's outlines it.
Yep.
And it's a triangle.
You gotta flip it upside down and make it a family tree.
Yeah, that's so good. Oh man. No, that's a great idea. I will reach out to these guys and have them on.
Yeah, we just
it'll be a fun discussion.
I just bought and shared with you some cold outreach emails. So use one of those emails.
Absolutely.
We should get him on the show too.
Yep, for sure.
But so number 2 in Persuasion podcast. Not bad. We try harder.
That's right.
We were going to do a whole show on number 2. We just haven't done that yet, but we'll get around to it.
Yeah, Avis. Story of Avis. For those of you who don't know it, Avis was number 2 to, who was it? Hertz or?
I think so. Yeah, Hertz.
Hertz was number 1. Avis was number 2, but they embraced that.
Yeah.
So we're embracing.
There's a lot of other good camp. The Mac versus PC was kind of a 1 versus 2, and then Pepsi. Always trying to battle Coke for number 1. Pepsi's always been number 2. Yep. So there's a lot of historical, really good campaigns of number 2s that we're trying to get to number 1. Maybe we'll do a show at some point on those. We should definitely get in touch with the Persuasion pitch. Their logo looks a lot more serious than ours.
It looks very conspiratorial.
Yeah, it's got the all-seeing eye and the pyramid. And
they're really going out of their way to just undermine MLM.
Yeah, so it's oh, okay.
We're not that serious. So who knows what this will look like if we have them on our unserious podcast versus their very serious.
Yeah, they seem a little angry. I don't know if they actually are. If
you just need a beer, man. We'll get them beer.
Yeah, I need to go listen to a couple episodes, but we're
gonna have them on.
I'm gonna reach out to them on Instagrams.
Yes,
because they're huge on Instagram. They've got 1.1 thousand followers. Big time. Because we're not even listed on Instagram.
We're not even on Instagram. We should be on Instagram.
We should be on TikTok because that's where all the action is these days.
That's right.
Speaking of that, real quick, we'll end with this. Talk about persuasion and using kind of the hot medium. I don't know if you're on it on TikTok at all.
I look at TikToks, but I don't produce content.
Man, there is this book. Like, books have been blowing up on TikTok. Like, there's this whole tag called Book Talk. But there's this one, especially if you kind of in the personal development, you know, any of that kind of space, the Shadow Work Journal.
Okay.
Has been blowing up on TikTok. They've sold through TikTok Shop 466,000 copies of this book.
Oh, wow.
I mean, just absolutely like just a viral sensation. All organic content and some affiliate marketing type stuff, but they've sold 466,000 copies of this book, which is just, you know, people say you can't make money. Like, TikTok is really starting to monetize, both for its creators, for its ad space, but now they have TikTok Shop where people can basically have affiliate links.
Yeah.
And like, there's people making, you know, real money, like paying their mortgage, paying their car payments, like all that kind of stuff, just by promoting affiliate products on there.
Yep.
So I bought a couple copies of the Shadow Work Journal because I wanted to see what it was about, and I'm into that kind of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just a fascinating little, like, because they show you, you know, as social proof, like how many people have bought.
Right.
And I remember the day I bought it, it was like 466,000 point. It was 466.1. And then like 2 hours later, I went and looked, and it was 466.2. I was like, dang, they're selling like 500 of these things an hour. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
You know,
yeah.
Self-published.
Yeah.
It is on Amazon as well. So I don't know if that's how they're doing the delivery or whatever, but
what's it called again?
The Shadow Work Journal.
Shadow Work Journal. Okay.
Yeah. So it's, you know, deep inner work stuff. And like, you know, once you show an interest in it, like the algorithm's showing you like every third video is like somebody like, oh my God, this is the most amazing book. And then as soon as I bought it, I don't see it anymore. Right. Because they know I bought it.
Oh yeah.
So now they're sending me to other stuff.
That's right. Of course. Smart.
So it's amazing. So if you wanted to blow up a book, man, if you can get a couple people or 3 or 4 people to start, you know, talking about your book online, you give them an affiliate link in TikTok Shop. Like, I'm gonna research that a little bit more to see like how that works. And yeah, I mean, you think about it, you know, and I saw the prices were different depending on, I don't know if TikTok Shop like automatically tests pricing or what it does. Because one time I would see it for $20, another time I'd see it for 10.
Yeah.
But let's say that the original author gets like $2.
Oh yeah.
466,000 copies. That's pretty good money. That's like $1 million.
Right.
So it's crazy, man.
I had to check that out.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I think that's it. I think that's
good stuff.
That's a wrap.
Well, that was good stuff, man. Great article. You can find us persuasionbythepint.com, or you can find us on all of your podcast platforms, Stitcher Radio, iHeart, Spotify, you name it. Yeah, hopefully we can snag these guys, maybe have them on an upcoming podcast. It'll be fun. A little banter there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys need to relax, man.
Yeah, I mean,
just MLM.
Yeah, the description.
Not the end of the world.
The description looks really intense. I'm gonna go listen to an episode now.
Just like conspiracy level. Okay, this is
that works, man. Polarization and dogmatism.
Of course,
it works.
Yeah,
it works. We should do more of it.
Yep, that's right. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week on the show. Thanks again for listening. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you then.
See ya.